Hey everyone, I'm Danielle Kessner, and welcome to another episode of Gripe, the show with short, sweet movie reviews, plus the one thing that annoyed me most. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the new movie, The Maze Runner Scorch Trials, which just came out this last weekend. It's a sequel to the movie The Maze Runner, which came out last year, and I believe they're based on a series of young adult novels, sort of in the same vein as like The Hunger Games and Divergent and those series. So it's another one of those, young adult teen kind of angst type of books. But we'll get right into it. So the first Maze Runner, when it came out last year, I didn't know a whole lot about it. I didn't know the book series. I didn't know anything about all the stuff that, it's supposed to go on with. So I went into it kind of blind. I'd seen a couple of trailers for it. I thought it looked exciting enough, entertaining enough. So I went and saw it, and I actually really enjoyed it. To my surprise, it was a very simple movie. It was a survival mystery type of story with, some elements of horror and suspense sort of thrown in there as well. But it was just a really kind of well put together type of movie like this. It wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't mind blowing, but it was certainly, I thought, well put together. And the characters were ones that you wanted to kind of learn more about. You wanted to get more. Just find out who these people are, and it just really brought this kind of story together, and I really enjoyed it. So when I heard that it was the first of multiple stories, I was excited because then it meant I'd get to learn more about this whole world that they'd created, this kind of dystopian future, which I always love. I love anything dystopic. Where there's this mysterious organization that's sort of in charge of everything, so it's got the kind of Resident Evil feel to it of, who are these people, and, what are they trying to control, and, what happened in the world that made everything so bad. So very exciting kind of storyline, especially for me, since I love anything apocalyptic. So with the way the first one ended that they got out of the maze, and now that they are like kind of in the hands of this organization that's supposed to be helping them. That that they're not, of course, but this organization is they're coming across as a group that is trying to actually save them from whatever trials they were going through. So now enter the second movie, which is where it starts. It just kind of picks up right where the first one left off, and you can tell right off the bat that they're just throwing them into this kind of this meat grinder of a situation. You don't know who these people are, you don't know what their motives really are at this point, and so you just kind of hope that some of that is explained to some degree. And the movie starts out with some kind of excitement and intrigue and all that, and it immediately goes from being this kind of we actually have a future now that we know kind of where we can go from here, to a chase movie. It's like, okay, now we escape, and now we got to get away from the organization. We got to get away from these zombie type characters that I'm assuming are the like larger issue that happened in the world, or these like kind of zombie, almost more like 28 Days Later kind of zombies. So they escape, and then it's this kind of game of cat and mouse of, like, well, let's go to the mountains and see the people there, or let's, kind of follow this plan that they don't really know, they don't have fully developed. They just know that their only option is to get away from this organization. And the movie pretty much then, until the very end, is just this kind of chase movie. Not in the same way as, like, Mad Max is, but more just like, we're trying to get away from these people. We're trying to find this organization that could help us against the larger corporation. So, and I'll get to my key gripe on this, but there isn't a whole lot in the way of advancement in the story, because, they don't really explain anything. There's always just this kind of like vague notion of something that's happening, or something that they all know needs to happen, and then they just kind of keep chasing these little notions, and by the time you get to the end of the movie, there's not a whole lot of clarity in that regard. So, but I'll kind of get to that. So like the movie itself is kind of a mixed bag of, the acting is pretty good. It's certainly not that, it's not anything better than what you would expect from a movie like this, and it's not anything worse. It's just kind of, expected the way that the acting is. It does have a couple of people who, I was glad to see. Giancarlo Esposito shows up. Yes, Gus Fring is in this movie. Although not nearly the coolness that Gus Fring can bring. And then Alan Tudyk, who's always he has such a range. He does so many different characters. He plays kind of a sleazy little character here. And I got to give some credit to the lead actor, Dylan O'Brien. He did a pretty good job. I wouldn't say he did a great job, but he did a pretty good job given the whole situation of the movie. It does feel like it was thrown together a little bit because, the visual effects are, at times good, but at times they're very cheesy. And, it's where they just tried to, throw together this idea, put the concept on screen and see how it, it's just throwing an idea at a wall and seeing what sticks kind of thing. But there are a few scenes in the movie where, the landscapes and all that really are, quite beautiful. So there is some good photography in it. But overall, the movie is kind of inconsistent that way. And actually, one thing that really hurts this movie is the pacing. It starts out and it's just like boom, boom, boom. They're like, all these different things happen right away, just nonstop. And it kind of maintains that momentum for a good amount of time until you get to the last 45 minutes of the movie. And this is a long movie too. I mean, this is over a 2-hour movie. But once you get to that last 45 minutes, they slow down way, way too much. And, I know that that's the point where they really try to actually bring some plot out in it, but it kind of fails there too, because then any, momentum the movie had or excitement just kind of gets lost, and at the end, there's a little bit of an action, battle scene at the end that really is kind of muted in a way because, the pacing is lost, and by then you're just like, okay, let's just get it over with and, kind of bring this movie to a conclusion. And of course there is no conclusion because, well, there's going to be a part 3, so the movie doesn't end with really any conclusion. And when the movie does end, and this is my key gripe from this movie, is there is no conclusion to this movie. There is no, wrap up. There's nothing in this movie that really ties everything up neatly. It leaves you feeling very unsatisfied. You don't get a real strong plot. There's no resolution. It is entirely, as my friend described it, a filler movie. And I don't like to use that because then it just means that the whole movie is pointless, but it kind of is a filler movie because they keep giving you little tidbits of information. They keep saying, okay, there's this going on or there's this going on, but they never really actually build that plot. They never tell you what these things are or kind of what this larger, picture is, that, there's this virus that happened and they're using the kids to combat the virus, and but that's not much. That's motive, but there's really nothing else behind that. It's just, so now we're just trying to get away from it. So that's definitely my key gripe from this one in particular, because at least the first movie there is some there was a purpose, there was some mission here, whereas here it's just the only purpose is just getting away. And even there they fail because, with the twist that they have, I won't give it away, but the twist that they have, it just kind of makes the whole thing moot. It's well, we're back to square one. This whole movie was fairly useless. So that's my review of Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials in a nutshell. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 5.5-star rating, which is pretty low because it means I enjoyed it to a degree. It had enough to keep my interest, but it also had way too many flaws to really give it a much better rating. So 5.5 stars for Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials. So thanks for watching another episode of Key Gripe, and I'll see you next time.